iPad. Anthony's there to analyse it for us, and I should imagine a lot to get your teeth into, Ant.
Don't know what on earth I'm going to talk about here, Simon, but let's start off with the heli shot of the restart, shall we? A shot that we've all seen. I'm going to play it in slow motion to keep an eye on Verstappen.
Okay, first I will let Anthony do the analyses, and then I will give my perspective.
He goes offline on those hard tyres, struggling for grip. You're looking for this dark line on the outside here. If you go beyond that or even on it, that's kind of the edge of where you usually run. So if you get onto that part, then you're definitely going to start suffering with a few marbles, and that's exactly what happens here. I'll just put the magnifier on it again, so you can definitely see he's offline compared to, say, where the likes of Leclerc is behind him. And as he runs off onto that bit, it's taken him onto the curb, and then, as we all know, he gets massively sideways, and it's a great save. Kills the momentum onto the straight. Leclerc sees this coming and is already aware, ready to pounce. So he draws alongside, and then you're looking at, well, who's moving? Is it Leclerc moving left? Is it Verstappen moving to the right? Now, the confusion with the heli shots like this is that because the helicopter's flying around the air, obviously, and moving around, it does weird things to your perception of which car's moving as well. So watch this, for example. I draw the lines as best I can on the white lines of the circuit. If I roll... Oh, that was terrible, Davidson. What are you doing? My artistic skills are failing me. Right, that's better, because I have to get this right. And then that one as well. Right, watch what happens if I just roll it on. Do you see what I mean? It's so bizarre. So the heli shot's not a real ideal scenario to see who's moving where. So for that, we need to go onto the onboard pictures that we'll show later. So the contact's made, and they head down the straight. Russell's in the slipstream and sees an opportunity down the inside into turn one. And as we know, the contact is made, and then Verstappen gets pushed out wide, and he goes off the track. So we'll get to that bit later. The thing we're looking at the moment is the Leclerc-Verstappen onboards. So this gives us a more realistic view of what happened. Watch Verstappen, snap of oversteer. I know it's a little bit blurry there, but that snap of oversteer is something quite remarkable, that he was managing to hold on to the car like that. If I go back to the split screen,
99% of the drivers would be on the wall there. That was a crazy save by Max.
Hopefully this clears up for us. Yes, it does. So now what I'm interested to see is, after they pass this point where Leclerc's about to move over, I'm going to draw some lines on the steering wheel just to check because that looks like it's fairly straight. So let's keep a check on his angle of the steering wheel, and also the angle of where he actually is on the track to the white line on the edge. So that's how I'm going to see whether there's any variation from Verstappen's side. And if I roll it on, you'll see it keeps the steering wheel fairly straight. And if anything, you see that arrow on the left-hand side? If anything, he's going left. The car's veering more to the left, and it's the contact here. It even knocks his head. You see Verstappen's head move over. So Charles has admitted it, hasn't he, in the press conference there, saying, yes, I was trying to push him over to the left-hand side because they're all fighting to get into this slipstream of this car in front of the McLaren. So that explains that situation. In this moment, I can't blame Verstappen. His remarkable skill to save the car on the exit of the final corner. It's more Leclerc that's done the dirty there and pushed him over. But no harm is done. They don't lose any momentum from that. But of course, Verstappen feels a bit aggrieved from it. So that clears that one up. The next thing we're going to look at is Russell against Max. So is that correct here? Just do that again. So now we're watching Russell on the right-hand side. So what you're looking for the overtaker, as the rules say, is you must, as the overtaker, on the inside of a corner, you must have your, at least, when you get to the apex, or at the apex, you must be in control at all times of the vehicle. And also, you must have your front axle alongside the mirror of the car you're overtaking, which he does. Clearly, it's almost front axle to front axle at this point. So at this point, the move is on. He's got a nice gap there. Unfortunately, he's got Leclerc here. And all the turbulence that comes off of Leclerc's car is hard to deal with. So Russell's turning in, he's anticipating the car is probably going to move, and now you're looking to see, so he's got the right to be there, it's his corner, as the rules say. We're looking to see if he's in full control of the vehicle at all times, and right there, he has a snap of oversteer. Look at that. He's fighting the car already. And they haven't made contact yet, and then later on, you watch Verstappen's helmet, because you'll see when the contact happens. There. So it's at that moment that and it's a big hit, actually. When you look at where Max's head ends up, it actually crashes into the headrest on the left-hand side. So it was a significant hit, and no wonder he couldn't keep in control of the car and ends up going off the track. So Russell did have the right to be there. You don't have the right to hit somebody off the track. So that's where there was a little bit of, you're in a bit of a grey area there. But so in terms of, in one rule, you've hit on the marks, but the next one, not quite in control of the vehicle at all times, and that's what Verstappen was annoyed about. And then he gets going, and of course comes out in front of Russell at that point. And so Red Bull have been looking at that and agreed that he should have given the place back, and that is, that's where the interpretation of the rule really comes into play, and that's where the stewards were looking into it as well. So Max really starts to get annoyed at this stage when the team have asked him basically to give the position back.
So what Anthony is saying is that the move by George is not legal. It's simple. You can't hit your opponent and then overtake, turbulent air or not, oversteer or not. The fact is that George pushed Max off the track. And I don't get why Red Bull said to Max to give the position back, and it's kind of their fault, and say kind of their fault, because why can't the stewards say give that position back? By the new rules, they just stay quiet, and the team should be their own referee. This is so stupid. Do your own job as a steward. But even when Anthony was very clear, Simon wants to justify George so badly. Just take a look at this.
Just along those lines, Anne, just to come in on that one. I mean, yes, okay, the fact that he banged into Max allowed him to make that corner within track limits, but he still did keep it within the track limits, didn't he, George, there? And could you argue that a mitigating circumstance as well was that snap of oversteer was caused by turbulent air?
Yeah, of course it can be turbulent air that's done it, but you're still not in control of the vehicle. So he's actually struck 2 out of the 3 in terms of the rules there. He has had a significant part of his car alongside, tick. He has remained within the white lines, tick, that's another one. But lost control momentarily of the vehicle. Doesn't matter how, you've lost a bit of control of your vehicle, and then there's been a hit in the car. And it's that moment where Max feels aggrieved. It's like, hang on a minute, he's just hit me, and now I've got to give the position back.
Yeah, so that...
And that's what's made the blood boil, and that's where I'm glad I'm not the one in the steward's room, because that's a difficult one. But I do always feel like if I'm the car on the outside, it is painful when you've given space. The space was there. I'll just roll it back to turn 1. It's a bit of a slow ordeal on this, but when you get there, I'm watching where Max has got his car, and is he squeezing George at this point? Well, no, because there's that, you can see that the gap to Leclerc, and he's always got a car's width to his right hand side. So it's not like he's been the one that squeezed George into a uncompromised position. It's just George has barreled in, and I do believe without Leclerc there, it would have been, George could have sent it in even harder and had more of his car alongside.
So Anthony very politely and with facts shut him up.
And so just to come in on that, I just wonder how much the pit wall was still scarred by Jeddah when they didn't give the place back, and then of course he got the penalty. So GP, his race engineer, comes onto the team radio and he says you need to give the place back, and Max probably feels like he shouldn't because of everything you've just explained there. So a disagreement, and that's what shot the temperature up.
So it shot the temperature, absolutely right, Simon. That's what led to this situation here with Verstappen just in front of... this is a bit that I don't understand. He's in front of Russell. He's been told to let Russell through. Yes, we've heard the rant on the radio. But the thing I don't understand is that what happens here? On the exit of turn 4, he clearly slows down. He's allowing George to overtake, but he doesn't actually overtake him. If you look to the left-hand side again, screen, if I bring that one up, there's never a moment when Russell actually gets fully ahead of him. He's not fully ahead. The car, and so he's not letting him by. But then suddenly, it's like he decides, actually, no, I'm not going to let him by after all, and carries such excessive speed into the corner without, and unfortunately we haven't got the onboard of Max either, but as far as I can see, there's no lock-up from it as well, so he's not out of control when he's doing this, and just dive bombs into the corner, hits the Mercedes hard. It's almost as if it's like a retaliation of what he felt happen in turn 1. And George he's very quick. Look, mid-corner, he's very quick onto the radio button. It's only just happened. He's immediately on the radio button and say, what on earth was that? And I tend to agree. I don't like to see that, whether the blood is boiling or not. I think Nico called it right. Well, maybe not a black flag,
You
but
think it was intentional, Ant? Yeah?
In this case, Anthony again is right. It looked that Max did that on purpose, and there is no excuse for what he did. I'm sure even the most crazy Max fan can't defend him on this case. Maybe the penalty should have been a bit more, but not a black flag for sure. Max was way over the limit on this one, but yet again, somehow, he is one of the last driver to race with heart and nerve, while the other drivers just play by the rules like robots. So I say, let's enjoy Max while we can, before they turn them all into robots. Like George instantly pressing the radio button was a robot reporting what happened. We all saw that. George, say something else. Raise your hand in anger because that was very unfair to you. So give the middle finger to Max. Don't be so politically correct.
Standing here right now, I'm not the one in the car, and like I say, I haven't got the onboard. I think it's intentional, and I don't like to see that. So I think everything up until that point, I can't blame him for. But that, like 100%.
Okay,
yes.
well, Nico called it a black flag. Let's go up to the commentary box. Nico, do you stand by that?
So just going back to the first one, it was George's fault because he only complied with 2 out of those 3 things that you need to comply with when you overtake. So Max could have stayed in front and didn't have to give up that place. So then Red Bull told him to give up the place. That caused his blood to boil over even more. And then it looked like a very intentional retaliation. Wait for the opponent and go ramming into him, just like you felt the other guy rammed into you in turn 1. And that is something that's extremely unacceptable. And I think the rules then would be black flag. Yeah, so that's why I said, okay, if you wait for your opponent just to bang into him and crash into him, then that's black flag.
I always agree with Nico, but not this time. A stop-and-go penalty would have been enough for Max to finish last, so that's what he deserved in my opinion.
Okay, well, just to play devil's advocate. Okay, so if he is the overtaking car, then George, on the outside, I'm just pulling up the rule here, it says overtaking on the outside will always be viewed as a more difficult manoeuvre. To be entitled to be given room, including at the exit when overtaking on the outside, the overtaking car must have its front axle ahead of the front axle of the other car at the apex. Can we go back to Ant at the Skypad just to have a look at that again? Be driven in a controlled manner from entry to apex and to exit, and be able to make the corner within track limits. Ant.
Yeah, that's right, Simon. I was hearing where you were going to get to with that, and I've teed it up exactly at that moment where Russell does indeed have, of course he has, at this point, the front axle ahead of Verstappen when the contact is made. The reason he doesn't have, because the rule actually says at the apex, so the reason he doesn't have his front axle still at least alongside at the apex is because he's been smashed out of the way. So the poor guy's had no chance to even get to the apex. So that clears that one up, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder though. It's just Max. Let's just come to you two, Naomi and Bernie. So, like his desperate attempt. He knows these rules. They've helped write these rules, Bernie. But he knows what he's doing. He's trying to avoid that from happening, isn't he? He's trying to avoid George being ahead at the apex.
Yeah, he is. Well, I think the George one's different because it does look, for all intents and purposes, like he's given them the position. So I don't think the stewards will look at that as in the same line of rules as what they normally do, because I think it's what happens earlier in the straight where Max appears to give him the position back. And one of the things just to point out is we obviously hear the notification come from GP to say give the position back, but we don't know where that's come from. So we don't know if Red Bull are having a conversation with the FIA in that moment of how they view it. there will be a team of people at Red Bull back in Milton Keynes going through the onboards, going through the offboards, making a decision on it. That won't have come from GP on the pit wall. There'll be a host of people looking at it and making their best decision that they can, or it's come directly from the FIA.
Okay, if what Bernie is telling us is true, that Red Bull has a team for this kind of decisions and they still came to the conclusion to give up the position, then Red Bull is slow in all departments, except Max, of course.
The restart, if you go back to 2017 in Baku, the one that Nico was talking about, that was a 10-second stop and go for Sebastian Vettel on Lewis Hamilton from the restart.
That's what I said. It should have been a 10-second stop and go.
But then when you look at these things in the past, and there have been some colossal championship-defining ones, I'm thinking 94, Adelaide, Schumacher on Hill, 97, Schumacher on Villeneuve.
Schumacher was disqualified from the championship, which meant he finished with 0 points. But that was the last race, and if Schumacher and Villeneuve didn't finish the race, then Schumi would have won the championship. So yeah, extremely different from the anger of Max.
In the European Grand Prix, 89, you go back to Suzuka and Senna and Prost. There's been this before, but you know, I mean, they had larger consequences than this.
So he's frustrated about that. Then he believes, according to these very prescriptive rules that the drivers have now been given of how they can and cannot overtake, he believes he's done the right thing in that situation and George is in the wrong, and then he's told to give the position back. And we know that with Max, that was more than 1 or 2 reasons to get him upset. When you upset him, the lion comes out. And of course, that doesn't make it okay. You don't just
So you
run
think
into
it's
another...
intentional?
I haven't said that yet, but I'm saying, of course, that frustrated him. And then when he gets to that moment with George, I'm not even sure he fully gave the position back. And I don't know if he was actually in the right position to try to sort of make these rules look silly by saying, okay, I'll do the same thing, prove to you guys that this is not how it works by doing it the other way around. So yes, I do think it's bizarre that he's so far back and then all of a sudden I think he comes off the brake a little bit and runs with a lot more speed into that corner than he would have done a lap before, so possibly intentionally.
Okay, let's hear what George has to say about that.
You know, Max is such an amazing driver and so many people look up to him. It's just a shame something like that continues to occur. It just seems totally unnecessary and it never seems to benefit himself. So, yeah.
I think that's the point. He makes those incredible moves like he does in Imola, and then he gets frustrated as we hear him being told on the radio to give the place back to you. And we see something like that then takes away from that fantastic driving. He was told to give it back and he was angry on the radio. I'm not saying it was intentional. I've never raced like that, so I had no idea. But to people watching, it takes the shine off what can be brilliant performances. So you're GPDA chairman. Can you guys talk? What can you do?
That is called being human, lady. When things go good, you are calm. When things go from bad to worse, you lose your mind.
I mean, you know, I'm too close to give my opinion on behalf of the drivers, but you know, you see it was like in Austin last year, some of the best moves ever, and then you go to Mexico and sort of lets himself down a bit, and then you go to Imola, one of the best moves that we've all seen in a long time, and then this happens. So, as I said, it cost him and his team a lot of points, and you know, Charles and I actually dropped off like a stone on those last 2 laps. He probably could have came back to fight for the podium. So, as I said, I'm not going to lose sleep. We've got our own problems to deal with, and that's making our car go faster.
All right, thank you very much, George.
That was a pretty good response from George, and I respect that, but I would like to hear what he really thinks about it, not just politically correct answer.
Well, a very measured response, you have to say, from George there. I mean, this is Max. We know what kind of driver Max is. He is a brilliant driver. Sometimes people think he crosses the line, and whether or not you guys think he crossed the line today, do you think it's intentional? Do you think
it locked it from outside the car? We obviously, no one's in Max's head. No one can say what he's thinking in that moment, but you could sense the anger building through the race, so it doesn't surprise me.
It's like they're all afraid of Max.
Let's just have a look at this, because this is a QR code for you. We're going to have a poll. We're going to run a poll. Should Max have been disqualified?
I have no comment on that, so I'll let you decide and give your opinion.
Hi Max, I imagine you know my first question. Was the move on George intentional? My first question has to be, was the move on George intentional when you turned in?
Does it matter?
I think so, to people watching.
Yeah? Okay. That's great. I mean, I prefer to speak about the race than just one single moment.
The moment itself got you a 10-second penalty though, and that pushes you back down to 10th, so it affects your driver's title hopes this year.
If there are any. So I think we are way too slow anyway to fight for the title. I think that was clear again today. Yeah, we tried to do a 3-stop, and I think it was quite good. It was quite racy, but we also needed it because we had actually quite a bit of degradation on the tires. So I think that was good. Unfortunately, then of course the safety car came out at the end, and we basically ran out of tires to use, and the hard tire was clearly not the right tire. I mean, when you only have 6 laps to go, everyone can go flat out, and I was severely grip limited on the hard.
Just before that moment, it was like, would you rather be a sitting duck in third or a sitting duck in first had you stayed out for the safety car or not pitted when you did and just tried to cling on to those
tires? Of course, afterwards, I mean, we have to look at it again. Of course, new tires, or at least fresh tires, they do make quite a bit of a difference as well. So I think no one really expected maybe that the hard tire was so poor. But yeah, when it was only 6 laps, maybe it would have been better to stay out, yes. But that's, of course, a bit easier to say right now.
And just finally for me, leading up to the end of the race there, you were saying in the car that the ride is completely broken. You were unhappy about Lawson and Behrman's tussle in front of you, and then on the radio when GP came on and said, you need to give the place back, there was a lot of frustration going on in the car. Is that what resulted in the move at the end of the race? Is that where it came from? Because you pull off something like the move in Imola, and we all see what an incredible driver you are. And it's horrible to see that shine taken off.
Is it?
With a comment about that. I think so, for fans and for kids watching, I think so.
Yeah? Okay, well, that's your opinion.
Yeah?
Yeah. We leave it there.
All right, thanks, Max.
I already posted this interview and my opinion on this, so you can go and watch it.
Well, I mean, he's not prepared to address it. What do you make of the way he reacted to that interview, Nico?
At least he didn't lie about it, which I think is fair play, and just avoided to answer. So I think he did it. He managed that very well. Hats off to Rachel also. That was a difficult interview to handle, and she did a very good job pushing the buttons there. But anyways, there's no need to discuss. It's it's like just super obvious. So he felt badly treated, even by his own team, because he was in the right with George Russell. Because George Russell's car was out of control, so he was allowed to stay in front, and even his engineer says give the position back, and that put the Lion over the boiling point. And so he just wanted to prove a point against the rules also, so just waited for him and then tried to do the same as George did to him, and just ram him off from the inside. Just that in this case, of course, it's deliberate, and that you're not, that's not on. You're just not, that's not acceptable. You cannot do that. It's not allowed. So that's why, we don't need to discuss it. It's like obvious.
Nico is the only one who says it as it is. He doesn't hold back like most of them.
Oscar, I've got very little written about your race because there was so much else going on. You got away, you controlled it. It's been an incredibly dominant weekend. How are you feeling?
Very proud, very satisfied. I don't have much more to add. It's been a really good weekend from basically start to finish. FP2 to now, it's been pretty much perfect. So we executed everything we needed to today. A great start, managed the first stint well, good pit stops, stuck to our guns on our strategy, and we executed it pretty much perfectly, so I can't ask for more.
We heard you on the radio in the formation lap. They were saying the timing was a tiny bit late on the clutch on the first one you did when you went out for that, and you absolutely nailed the second one. Is it these tiny details that are creating this championship lead?
Definitely, yes. But I mean, that's a normal bit of feedback. You always try and get the clutch drop exactly where the engineers set it. But there's a human element, so you're just trying to do a better job. But no, I think we're always on those details, and I think this weekend in particular we've done a very good job of finding every bit we can. I think Friday we thought quite a few teams were in the mix with us, and after Saturday I think we felt like we found some more. So that was very satisfying, and I think today we had really strong pace.
I have to ask you about what you saw in the cool-down room, because obviously we hear what's said in there, and you guys saw the incident with Max and George. What's your take on it?
I mean, I kind of need a bit more context around it. I obviously saw Max went off at turn 2, but I didn't really understand what went on at turn 5. Like, I didn't know if it was a misunderstanding or what, but I'll have a look later.
So you don't want to comment?
I don't really know what happened apart from they crashed into each other. So I'm not going to comment on something I don't know about.
Okay, that's fair enough. Thanks, Oscar.
He didn't want to respond to Max's situation, and he did the right thing because it doesn't concern him. And we learned a very important thing today, which is that Oscar has more pace than Lando. Even after the restart, Lando couldn't keep up with him.
Was that you and Max together? It was. I can't believe you turned on him like that. That was crazy.
Well, I have to ask you that because we saw you guys watching it in the cool-down room, and you said you've done that in Mario Kart.
It's clear.
You said you've seen that in Mario Kart, but not on the track before. What did you make of it when you guys
saw
it?
That?
Yeah, we heard it.
Right. No comment.
You've raced alongside Max. You've tried to get past Max in the past. Do you think he feels people are finding ways to get past him now?
My race was very good today, and the team had a great one too. I was happy with my pace. Just too difficult to follow around a track like this. So yeah.
I'll put another spin on it then. If kids are watching and they go karting and they try and move on that, they've seen that on a Formula One race. Is it an example that should be set?
That's not for me to say. You know the answer.
Okay. I think I do, but I can't say that. I'm not a racer. I'm not a Formula One driver. Can you understand being in the car and being frustrated?
Of course. I get frustrated all the time. That's life, you know. That's sport. But yeah.
Let's talk about your start, because unfortunately you got ahead. You lost about 4 seconds, we reckon, in total by that. So is that what cost you a win today, or challenging Oscar for the win today, do you think, or was it not there?
That's difficult to say. I think maybe it lost me out some opportunity to try to. I don't think it cost me the win. Oscar was quick when he needed to be. He was always saving it. He had clean air. It's not like I was half a second a lap quicker than Oscar. There's a couple hundredths, maybe a tenth at times that splits us, and as soon as you get within 3 seconds, you're easily losing 1/10. So it was just the dirty air cost me more than anything. I had my chances to try and catch back up. It was just not, especially around this track with the tyres screaming for help all the time. It's just not possible. So yeah, I maybe lost out some opportunities to attack a little bit more and put him under a bit more pressure, but I don't think necessarily a win was possible today.
Thank you.
In my opinion, it will take a miracle for Lando to win the championship against Oscar. And I feel really bad for the guy. Now that he has the chance to win a championship, his teammate improved so much this year that his chances are slim. But I really hope he can work on his mental strength and give us a championship battle.
Charles, you said you sacrificed Saturday for Sunday, and it did pay off in the end. Firstly, let's start with that and not how that last stint was. And just tell me, did you create that podium today by yesterday, or what you did yesterday, do you believe?
I think so. Because the first stint was super strong, and for me was super strong because we had that tire that we didn't use yesterday. On the TV page, maybe you were seeing scrub tire, but it was only a tire that had done an out and an in yesterday, so it was basically a new tire. And I absolutely didn't want to use that tire in qualifying in Q3. We could have, but I chose not to for today. And I think that is really the game changer for today. The second medium was worse than what I expected. I think P4 would have been possible. But luckily there was a safety car at the end. In Imola we were on the unlucky side of things. Today we were on the lucky side of things, and I'm happy to get the podium.
You said on the radio, there's an explanation for this. I don't know what it is, but there's going to be an explanation. What do you mean? Do you mean that the team's just got to find out why the balance shifted so much in that last stint, or what's...
No, I know exactly the limitations for whatever reason, and we need to understand that changed massively from the first stint to the last stint. And the limitations were just a lot more difficult to manage in the last stint. And that's why we were losing a lot of pace compared to the first stint. We need to understand why, but I've got an explanation for it, so we'll discuss with the team. I obviously won't give too many details here, but I'm pretty sure I know from where it's coming from.
Is that new this weekend? You understanding it and knowing where it's coming from, or?
It's not something I expected. So yeah, yes, it's new from this weekend.
So that's a positive then, if there might be an answer there.
Yeah. We need to find a solution to it, which is not a given, but it's good that already we understand from where it's coming from.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done. Hi Lewis, we heard the radio at the end where you said something is wrong with this car. Can you tell us how it felt and what you were dealing with?
Not particularly, it was just not a great day. Just not a great day.
Also on the strategy call, would you talk about that to us?
Strategy was good, team did a great job, just that's it.
I hate seeing you in this mood. It's hard to see you in this mood.
What do you want me to say?
I know
I just
this
had a
is
really bad day and I've got nothing to say.
I totally understand that.
It was a difficult day. There's nothing else to add to it. It was terrible. There's no point explaining it. It's not your fault. I just what else to say?
I do understand that. I just hope that they find answers for you.
I'm sure they won't. It's probably just me.
Charles had a brilliant race, and a really good pace. He was almost at the same pace with the McLarens, but I can't say the same about Lewis. I don't know what's happening to him lately. Sometimes he is really fast, and sometimes he gets overtaken by Hulkenberg, which I'm sure it hurt a lot. Not because it was Hulkenberg, but because he is in a Sauber.
Nico, when the boss comes down to the driver's pen to congratulate you, you know it's been a good day.
Yes.
Huge congratulations. That must feel like a win almost for the team.
It feels very good, very sweet. It's been a long time coming since Melbourne to have a result, and then a big one like that is obviously very, very sweet. And it's funny and ironic how yesterday, was a bad day, but in the end it was also somewhat the golden ticket, to have all the fresh and new tires. I think there was a big delta between used and new tires today, so yeah, that somehow really paid off today. Great lap, great start, great first lap, which really put me in the race, turned things around very quickly, and after that it's just performance. The update is working, and that's the best recipe.
That's what I was going to ask you. Where did that pace come from? You do believe it was the update today, and then conditions just suited you? And
no, I think I put it mostly down to the update. Then maybe the new flexi wing stuff that other teams may have lost a bit more than us. On top of that, and just a good feeling with the car by now. Found my rhythm with the car, and it sort of clicked. So very happy.
Thank you. Thanks.
All his experience shown today, and congratulations from his team boss, Mattia Binotto too.
It was a brilliant race for Hulkenberg. I really hope he gets a podium or a win before the end of his career.
Yeah, really good job. That's obviously why he was recruited, because you can never doubt his quality, can you? I mean, he's one of the finest drivers out there for a long period of time, just still searching for that elusive first win or podium.
Well, coming through the ranks, he was a generational talent. He won at he dominated at every single category, including Formula 2. And somehow, though, he never really lived up to his potential in F1. He still has never been on the podium, which is a crazy statistic after I don't know how many years. And imagine how close he got today, being fifth. But yeah, a fantastic job from him. And I like to give a hand also to Ant at the Skypad, who does such an awesome job for us. Yeah, really fun to watch all the time.
On point today, Ant. You really have. Your two French mates from last night's football, they're brilliant. They improved. Isaac Hadjar, another 7th. Pierre Gasly, 8th. Inspired clearly by PSG's win.
Well, Gasly didn't improve. He stayed in the same position. I think he'll be a little bit annoyed that the other Frenchman got ahead of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all good fun between the two of them. Last night there was a little bit of banter about whether they were going to keep it clean today, and it looks like they did. And a haul of points for both of them. I think especially for Alpine, they had a really solid weekend. We've obviously seen Hadjar quite regularly now in the top 10, so it's not so unusual to see him there, but great job from the Alpines. I just want to pick up on one thing we haven't discussed so much, is the power unit failure for Antonelli, which I think is going to start to become quite a concern. That's 3 issues, technical issues, reliability issues, shall I say, over the last 3 races for Mercedes power units. I don't know what it ended up being in Monaco, but not good news for them, is it?
On the phone to
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Mercedes power unit. It's very strange. And what's even more strange is the fact that only McLaren didn't have a problem with the Mercedes PU. Aston Martin, Williams, and the Mercedes itself had a PU failing. Well, at least the rest of the grid can hope for McLaren to have a couple of DNFs. So yeah, this is it for F1 Post-Race Show. I hope you liked it. And also, I hope I wasn't too much annoying with my interruptions. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you in Canada.